Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to be here. The U.S. Women's National Team game just ended. This is the women's game. We are live. It is literally moments after the final whistle of the USA versus Australia game at the SheBelieves Cup. The U.S. won 2-1. It was close there at the end. We scored 2 goals from Lynn Biondolo, 1 from Michelle Cooper, and I am so happy, everybody. I'm so excited to be joined by my former U.S. Women's National Team teammate, 2015 World Cup champion, 2 times NWSL champion. It's Meghan Klingenberg. Kling, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I've been waiting to be asked to be on the show.
Oh my gosh, I am so glad that you're here. I think this is going to be so much fun. And now that I know you're down, I'm going to ask you back all the time.
Well, I feel like I'm always catching up on the show because Becky's always telling these weird little stories about me on here, and they're super cute, and I feel really flattered, but also just a touch embarrassed of our antics.
I know. The podcast stories, I'm always like, should I tell this? And then I'm like, you know what? I'm doing it. The fans need to know. All right, everybody, we are going to react to this game. We're going to have Kling answer all of our questions, all of your questions. But first, let me explain what we're doing here tonight. This is a TWG Live, which means that you, our listeners, are here with us. You can ask us questions about whatever you want. You're going to scan the QR code that's in the top left of your screen. That's going to take you into a Zoom call with our producer, Sophie. She'll get you set up to ask your question. It's audio only. Don't worry. You're not going to be on screen. That's just for me and Kling. We'll get to those questions a little bit later in this broadcast, but go ahead and get in line now. Make sure you get your question in. And if you don't want to ask a question, please just give us a like. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button as well and join us on this channel. I'm going to read a couple of people in the chat. People talking about Becky's shoes. I see that. I love that. I had to turn my TV off, unfortunately, so I did not get to glimpse those bad boys. We're getting a lot of love for Lynn. Let's see what else we've got here. A lot of people excited to see Kling. J. Lou with the big Kling crying faces. I love to see it. Kling, we're really, really excited to have you. Okay, we'll get to those questions in just a few minutes. Kling, let's get right into it. Let's talk about the lineup. We saw a totally new lineup than we saw from the game on Thursday night. Starting in goal with Mandy McGlynn, formerly hot. She took over for Jane Campbell from last game. Then across the back, we had captain Tierna Davidson, Emily Sams, Giselle Thompson, Crystal Dunn, who's back in the starting 11 for the first time since the Olympics. In the midfield, we had Corbin Albert, Claire Hutton, Jaden Shaw, and then up top, Alyssa Thompson, Lynn Biondolo, and Emma Sears. Where do you want to start with this lineup, Kling? What stood out to you the most?
Let's talk about the youngness of the squad. It was such a joy to watch. These young players get out there and represent the country and just get their first cap, get the jitters out, see the potential that they have. That to me was so fun. I had such a blast watching the young players just ball and look like they were having fun.
I know. I felt like, especially the beginning of the game, the energy was so high. And I think something Alyssa was on this last TWG Live with me, Alyssa Nair, and something we were kind of joking about was when you start a game with so many young players who are vying to do great for their first game, it can sometimes get a little bit frantic out there. The energy is really high, but I felt like the energy, the composure was in a good balance. And the young players were super exciting to watch, but it wasn't out of control.
Absolutely. Such a good point. I mean, I've played with young players. I've been the veteran that's been playing with young players. And I feel like, especially when they're not the starters, they go out there and they're like, this game is going to make me a starter. And we've all done it. I did that.
I know.
You did that. Everyone does that. But it doesn't make for the best soccer. And it didn't feel like that today. It felt like everyone was like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be me, do me the best that I can. And everybody's styles kind of flowed together in a really positive and flowing kind of way. And it was really great to watch, especially at the beginning when they had all the energy and the fitness was still up.
Yep, I know. I totally agree. I did want to mention we had only really a little bit of experience out there. We had Tierna, Crystal, and Lynn. Mm-hmm. And what we really are talking about right now is the youth. This was the youngest starting 11 put up by the U.S. Women's National Team since 2001, which I feel is I don't know if you watched Survivor, Kling, but I feel like this is new era U.S. Women's National Team. And so to have this young of players kind of back in the mix feels like old U.S. Women's National Team when it was 16-year-old players were going in all the time in the early 2000s, the 90s. It's crazy. And it's really, really cool. Yeah.
it's like a new era that we're in that like
Yeah.
kind of, we set up that like the 99ers, the 91ers, like all that era set up our era of play, right? And now I think our era of play has set this era up like really well because
Yeah.
now there's like these systems in place for young players to grow and develop. Like, I mean, I wish I had the opportunities and the systems that these players got
I
to like,
know.
participate in. I mean, I was playing like youth soccer when I was 16, literally running around on like grass where you could blast your ankle in half just as like one wrong step, And now these players get to play with pros and get to see
Yeah.
what the level is like. And that just would have been such a difference for everyone that's in our era. And so it's just really cool.
I know. I mean, thinking about Claire Hutton, who's 19 years old, I mean, we were in college, but she's playing in her own professional stadium in Kansas City right now. She's developing at such an incredible rate. She made her debut to start this game in the midfield. Then we have Giselle Thompson, who's also only 19. Jaden Shaw and Alyssa Thompson are just 20. I think I was 21 when I got my first cap, but Alyssa Thompson's already been to a World Cup. Jaden Shaw has a gold medal. The experience that these players are getting is so incredible and so impressive. And I think I want to talk a little bit about how the system that we're in now, not just the NWSL, but the national team system, even the opportunity for these players to go and play abroad, how that's setting them up for success moving forward and what might change on the national team that maybe, like you were saying earlier, maybe we didn't necessarily have access to. What should we expect from these changes?
Well, when we were on the national team, especially me when I came in, it was like 2011. And it was so cutthroat. Like there was literally 20 spots in the entire country that paid well enough that you didn't have to have another job to play soccer. So like
That
people would
is
do
cutthroat.
it's
That is
cutthroat.
so cutthroat.
Oh, absolutely wild. So people would do anything in the world to stay in those positions. And I get it, right? Like that's like there was scarcity. And now I feel like there's just so much more opportunity. And if
Yes.
you're not finding something that's fitting for you, you can find a different team. You can go abroad. You can play in college. There's just so many different ways to develop now. You're able to, like, people are at all different stages. They have different skills, personalities, backgrounds. And now you can find something that actually suits you to enable you to become the person and player that you want to be. And
Yeah.
we just didn't have that. We just had to be one size fits all, and you have to like make it or you don't. And that produced a lot of really great, like cutthroat players that
Yeah.
are all our friends.
Yep.
But I just love that we're now seeing like these different types of players get into different types of lineups and organizations and like really blossoming into like these mature and awesome
Sophisticated players. I know.
sophisticated.
I totally agree. And I have to just mention how right you are that we were in like this scarcity mindset for so long. And I do see it changing. I was talking to Lindsay Horan on an episode that just came out on Thursday, Lindsay Heaps, excuse me. And I got this sense of her leading this team that there is more of this abundance mindset that Lindsay now as a leader of the team has the capability of saying, okay, I'm putting the team genuinely first as captain, even if that means that I'm not going to think first about myself. And I was kind of like, oh my God, I had to think every second I was in camp. I didn't have a moment or an ounce of energy to think about anybody other than myself. I had to survive. And that is such a scarcity mindset. There was only so many spots. And it is still true, but the idea that what you're saying, there is more places to play, more teams available, more money available for more players to play at a high level, I think is a shift. And I think it's really exciting that we're going to start to see this pool develop into a bigger pool. Even the idea of Tierna Davidson stepping up and being captain today, I'm like, I feel like that's back in the day, a place of like hoarding the captaincy and of jealousy. But now I feel like it's this beautiful, Lindsay must be overjoyed to be sharing this role with Tierna today and must be like, this is an incredible opportunity to kind of spread the load, give Tierna experience being captain. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit. I know you've been a leader of all the teams that you've been on, but you've played so much with Becky Sauerbrunn, who's one of the most iconic captains of the U.S. women's national team. what does being captain look like? Like, what are the qualities that you, Tierna, Lindsay, Becky, what are the qualities that make players like that such great leaders?
Well, I think like from my perspective as a player, it's going to be totally different than what coaches think. Like coaches
Mm,
have this idea of what they want their captain to be because they think it's their captain, right? But then players, I think now have a much different idea of what it is. It's a lot of leading by example. If you're Becky Sauerbrunn, if you're Christine Sinclair, like those type of players that are a bit quieter, but love to just show up, do the work, put it in all the right way. And you know, if they say one thing to you and it's like, why aren't you doing this better? You're like, oh my God, I've upset Becky.
the worst.
Yeah, the worst. You know, you feel so bad. And then I think like there's just room for many different types of leadership. So while I wasn't a captain on the national team, I was able to bring a different type of leadership than Becky can because it's out of her comfort zone. Like I love firing up my teammates. I love telling them how good of a job they do. I love hyping them up and then like also holding them to a high standard. Like if they need
Yeah.
to play faster, I'm going to tell them that they need to play faster. Um, so I think that there's just more room now for just different types of leaders to step into these roles. You don't have to be everything to everyone. And I think that's one of the cool things about, you know, seeing Becky, seeing Lindsay now is like giving the opportunity, the space for these other players to like step up. We're like, hey, we expect you to be here because we
Right.
believe in you, you know?
Yeah.
And that's really cool to see. I love that. And that's just not the way that it used to be. And I think the way that it used to be is like coaches were like, hey, I need you to be my go between from
Yeah.
players to coaches. And I need you to like kind of hammer them when I need you. It's not like that anymore. To me, it's
Yeah.
more like this prestigious position where the players like truly look up to you. Like you're honestly representing something much bigger than yourself. And a lot
Yeah.
of even like social injustice things nowadays
Yeah.
because of the way that the US national team has taken on pay inequality and Black Lives Matter and all these different types of things. So
Right.
it's honestly a really big position, and I'm a huge Tierna fan, and it's
I
only been
know.
reinforced by tonight. So I'm stoked for her.
I know. I am too. I think it's really cool. And I love seeing, like, I think of Lindsay and Tierna as like my peers. And so, I mean, Tierna is quite a bit younger than me, but we kind of came up and onto the team together. And so seeing my peers captaining, leading the team, Tierna, again, I think she's like 6 years younger than me. And so to be like, wow, like, it's the people that I was with that were in our position and now they're the leaders. Like I'm so proud of Lindsay because especially because Lindsay and I had to fight for a position so much that I just feel like my respect for her is grows so much from those moments. And seeing them lead the team, seeing them share this kind of responsibility of holding this position that's so sacred to so many of us. I'm super excited for them and really proud of them. I want to get into the game because we got off to literally the fastest start ever. The
Yeah.
first opportunity that we could build up the field, we started from Mandy McGlynn, built up through the midfield. Emma Sears takes off down the left-hand side of the field, comes inside, lays it out wide to Jaden Shaw, taps it over to Lynn Biondolo, scores a goal, 45 seconds. Such an incredible start. And I will say, Australia did not have a great start to the game. So I don't want to take anything away from us, but Australia was in a tough spot at the beginning. They are coming into She Believes off of a poor Olympics last summer. They have an interim head coach in Tom Sermani. They're still without their best player in Sam Kerr. They just lost the other day painfully to Japan by 4 goals. So not in their best shape, especially to start off this game. How do you think they felt, Australia, getting scored on after all those things I just named 45 seconds in?
Well, you also have to like think about for Australia that all those things, and it's not the USA's starting lineup.
I didn't even say that, did I?
Yeah, exactly. So I think they were probably like, oh crap, you know.
Yeah, like
But
what's happening?
I don't know. I don't know. They're really without like rhythm and flow, and they don't really have any ideas in attack, and they're pretty open throughout. Like their lines are like the spacing in between their lines is like kind of all over the place. But enough about Australia. I just think like I just think that they actually did respond quite well because
They
the
did.
USA had such a hot start. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a steamroller watching us build out of the back in the first 30 minutes. And we didn't. And, you know, Australia actually did come back and scored a pretty nice goal, to be fair.
They did.
So
They did. They did do a good job to come back. I think the second half is a totally different tale than the first, which we will get into in a second. I want to talk about specifically this goal and the early chances that especially I felt Emma Sears was creating down that left-hand side. I think that matchup between her and Ellie Carpenter, who I have a lot of respect for as an outside back, she plays for Lyon, a world-class team. And Emma Sears was running at her at speed, cutting inside, like having a lot of success. Kling, obviously, you're an outside back. What makes a winger like Emma Sears really dangerous? What was she doing that was so effective today?
Emma Sears was super shifty. The way that she was moving the ball kind of positioned Carpenter in the way that she wanted her to go and then flipped it on her. And I mean, if I was Carpenter, I'd be really ticked off. Gotta remember it's live.
I know.
I'd be really
I love
ticked
that.
off.
I want to clip that exact. I want to just clip that exact thing. Kling, gotta remember it's live.
But I would be so ticked off because I felt like they were leaving her a bit on an island. And especially with a 1v1 player like Sears, who loves to run at an outside back, she probably needed a bit more help, especially lower on the field.
Yeah.
And they just weren't rotating across fast enough to help out Carpenter. And that allowed Sears to like really run at her.
Yeah.
And so Sears wasn't getting a touch and then trying to take her on. Sears was getting a run at Carpenter and then taking her on. And so
full head of steam.
Exactly. Like that's the outside back's worst nightmare when an attacker is coming full head of steam and you're 1v1 and you're like, all I can do is just force her outside and slow her down. But she did a great job and was really like creative.
Yeah, I thought Emma Sears looked really good. That is also my worst nightmare, to be fair, in the midfield. If anybody's running fast at me, I'm just back. I start backpedaling, shuffling backwards. I'm like, this isn't good. I hope I don't fall over. I think again, especially in the first half, our attack continued to surge forward with lots of energy. Emma Sears, Linby and Joel, Alyssa Thompson had good attacking ideas. We were moving at speed. Things were pretty clean. Jaden Shaw was really involved. Claire Hutton seemed really to be setting a lot of play in there, connecting the back line to the front line. And Kling, you actually texted me during the game about Claire Hutton. Can you talk to me about her positioning, what you like about her?
I did. I was calling her a young one the whole game, and I mean it as like this term of endearment. I'm like, oh, so good, young one.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, because I just rate her so highly. I just see so much potential in her. And you know Angela Salem?
Yeah.
Who used to play for the Portland Thorns?
Yeah.
So Angela Salem played with me for like a few years on the Portland Thorns. And honestly, she's probably the best 6 that I've ever seen in terms of her manipulating other defenses to be able to get on the ball, to open up somebody else and open up spaces to break lines with passes. And I see that from Hutton. And I don't see that with many other players. And Ange was like in her 30s when she retired. And so this was like years and years and years of working on her craft. And Hutton is, you said 19, right?
Yeah.
18, 19. Yeah. So 19. She's 19 and she's already being able to manipulate the defense in a way that I don't see other mature, experienced veteran players doing. I loved it, and it was so fun to watch. And I just feel like the sky is the limit for that athlete.
She looked so good, and this was her first cap in Australia. I know we were ragging on Australia a little bit, but like Australia is good. Like Australia made the semifinal of the World Cup. Like they are in a little bit of an off spell right now, but it's not like this was an easy first cap to go into and perform really well. Claire Hutton looked great. I am super excited about her. I think she's, oh my gosh, going to be so key for Kansas City. Like, I'm like frothing at the mouth, imagining getting to play with Temwa Schwinga and play these direct little passes into feet, which we saw Claire do. Like, again, as a midfielder, her positioning was really, really great. I love how she can get herself faced up, find little pockets in between defenders, set play with confidence, play balls forward. I think she's really incredible. We've got two huge Claire Hutton fans here on this TWG Live right now. I also want to talk about Mandy McGlynn. She was called upon a few times to step up in goal. She demonstrated mostly skill with her feet. There was a little snafu in the second half, but overall, solid performance. I was disappointed for her that she couldn't get the shutout. What's your overall impression? I know that she's been playing for Utah in the league. She's 26 years old. Everybody talks a lot about her foot skills. Why do you think that we're talking about her and her ability to play with her feet? And why is that so important on this U.S. women's national team?
Well, it's like having an extra player on the field, you know, you like create overloads that way. And so what's really great about McGlynn, right? Okay, thank you. Just making sure.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. When we played against her this past summer in the league, she absolutely annihilated us, like picked us apart with her feet. And it's just so frustrating because
that, like, ruins the press, right?
Oh, totally ruins it, because you like practice against a back four and now you're having to play against a back three with 5 midfielders. Like, oh my God, that totally messes everything up. And so the whole point of soccer is to create overloads all over the field. So you can basically like progress the ball and then be able to like make like passes into spaces that are dangerous, right?
Right. So, and by overloads, I'm just making sure everybody understands that term. That's like a numbers up situation.
Correct. And so when you bring your goalkeeper forward like that, you automatically create an overload that the defensive team needs to solve right away. Yeah. And like, especially even higher up the field. So like when we were playing against her in the summer, she was having the ball probably 15 yards outside of her box at her feet, building with the back line. We didn't really see that today. Right. But the higher that you can get that overload, the better it is. And the more that the other defensive team has to sink off and can't get pressure. Right. So like, I'm really excited to see what she can do on this national team. It seemed like she had a bit of nerves today. And it wasn't it wasn't exactly herself, but I think that we'll see a lot more from her, because that's what like the national team, the US team has been screaming out for a while. And I think that that's something that Emma is looking to incorporate into the team. It's just another advantage that a lot of other teams can't have, because they don't have goalkeepers that can be good enough with their feet.
It's super exciting. I think this goalkeeper pool is one of the most interesting questions about the future of this team, with the retirement of Alyssa Nair, who we all just absolutely love to death.
Love her.
Another really interesting storyline, Kling, and of course I'm going to bring this up. The sisters, Alyssa and Giselle Thompson, made their first start together. It was Giselle's second ever cap. Coming from me, this sounds silly, but it is rare for sisters to make this team together at the same time. I know that Christina has similar opportunity. But again, I'm like preying on your outside back knowledge here, Kling. I want to better understand Giselle as a player. What can you tell us about what she's good at now, and then some areas that you see she could grow into?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love the way that she takes her touch forward and that she breaks lines on the dribble. And she's always looking to go forward, always looking to take that touch, always looking to get involved in the attack. That's great. That's the instinct that you need as an outside back. The one area that I really would love her to work on offensively is being able to manipulate their forward or their midfielder with her positioning. Yeah. So when do I come low and bring out their midfielder so we can break a line with a pass? It goes in between them into our midfielder. Or when am I the person that is going to be the person that breaks the line with like a center back to an outside back sort of pass? Like, That
how
is
high her
that's
positioning,
high
how
level
high she
tactics.
is up the field. Yeah.
Correct. Inside, outside, up, down. Like it's very difficult because that's like high level sort of positioning where I kind of feel like a lot of times we take outside forwards and make them into outside backs. And so that is a tactic that outside forwards don't do as much as like midfielders. But midfielders do that tactic all the time. How high, how low do I have to be to break a line? What side of the player do I need to be to break the line?
Yeah.
Right. And like
Yeah.
obviously you have to do that all over the field. But the way that I think about outside back is more like a 10 or an 8 or a 6. It's like, how can I break the line with either my positioning so somebody else can break it, or
Yeah.
how can I break the line myself with a pass or a dribble? And I think that Giselle does a great job doing it with the dribble. And now
Yep.
she needs to be able to do it with like her positioning and the passing.
That's like so genius. I think that's really, really smart. And I love that you're thinking about it that way. And I feel like Angel City fans right now are like getting super excited that they have Giselle. She's only 19. She has all this potential. Let's imagine she continues to grow her tactical game, her positioning, how she can manipulate the other team. She's so exciting to watch. I do have this question that I do really want to ask you, and I don't want it to come off the wrong way. I
Okay.
I was always like a big, tall,
Mhm.
big framed player. And so I feel like I see players with big frames, good frames, and I'm like powerful, strong, difficult to stop. Maybe they like remind me of myself. And so I'm like, oh, she's going to be good. But you were never the biggest or the tallest. And on this roster, I actually think we have a lot of smaller players, but they're playing great. They're some of the players that we're talking a lot about in these conversations. Scrappy, strong, fast, going tough into tackles. The Thompson sisters, both of them, were putting their bodies on the line. I want to know from you, Kling, what do smaller players have to think about that players like me don't?
Well, first of all, Sam, if I saw you coming through on a tackle, I'd be like, nope. And
No.
I would just try and like toe
Honestly,
poke the
smart.
ball away and then run to it faster than you. Like that is tactic.
But you know what I would do is I would be like, I can't let her create any space between us because I won't catch her. So I
Mhm.
have to stay really close to her and use my body as like a human weight shield.
Exactly. So we're doing like we're both playing to our strengths because what I would try to do is like reel you in and then use somebody to get around you. So I would try and one to it around you. So I would get your weight, try and get
Mm,
your weight to come this
use it
way. And as
against me.
soon as your weight came this way, I'd be going that way. So like different player profiles, you know?
For sure. Did you feel as a player that when people commented on your size, did that annoy you?
You know, it used to, but like I can't tell you how many people comment on my size. They still do.
Just even like off the field.
Yeah, for sure. They're like, "Oh, you're so little," and I'm like, "Okay,
And
hi."
is it like annoying as an athlete?
Well, I just am like, I don't want to make it too deep, you know. But sometimes I feel like they're infantilizing me a little bit by being like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're so little," and I'm like, I'm a full grown 36-year-old woman,
Yeah.
so we're good, you know.
I know. I find it so interesting because I don't want to focus on it a lot. And I think, like, my point earlier was that some of the smaller players out there were being so scrappy and they do look
Yeah.
so strong. And so I don't ever want to focus on anybody's body, but it interests
Hmm.
me how players who have different physical attributes are playing the game differently and using what they have physically to make themselves better or to focus on. I mean, even the way you and I spoke about it, you would try to manipulate me and I would try to manipulate you based on those attributes. So I just find it fascinating and I wanted to use this opportunity to ask.
It is. No, you're right. And I think what's interesting about being so like low to the ground is that you have this center of gravity that you're not going to have, Sam.
No.
And so the way that you can change direction is way different than the way that I change direction
Yeah.
and these other small players. So that's a huge difference. I feel like it's really helpful when you just want to pass and move. You're like, I'm going to just bop it in there and then get around the outside and get it back.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I can see
that
you doing that in my head. I can see you playing the 1-2 and running in.
that's literally my favorite thing.
I just like saw it in my head. I love that so much. Well, as we've talked about this a little bit, I do think the game, it leveled off a little bit. I think the energy from the US dropped a little bit in the second half. And my interpretation of why the game evened out is kind of because we came out foot totally down on the gas. All these new young players probably had a little bit of an adrenaline rush. And then we have this little dip in energy. And there was a couple things I wanted to point out. Tonight's starting lineup was more NWSL based. So more players in preseason, 9 NWSL players in tonight's starting lineup. Whereas on Thursday, there was only 6. So they had more on Thursday, more European based players who are in that mid-season fitness. They're, ready to last 90 minutes, ready to play a couple games in a row. So I think we saw a little bit of a dip tonight, which is totally fine. We made some subs around the 60th minute. Tara McKeown, Ali Sentnor, Yasmin Ryan, Michelle Cooper subbed on. Lynn Biondolo, Emma Sears, Alyssa Thompson, Crystal Dunn came off. Kling, we were also talking about this during the game. When young players get tired on the national team, which for me would happen the first 5 minutes anytime I was in training, a game, whatever, it's such a high level that my calves would get tired and I'd be like, I can't focus anymore. What should these players focus on in those moments where like physically they're starting to get exhausted?
Yeah, we did talk about this. And I think you hit the nail on the head that it was just a fitness sort of issue. And when you're this far into preseason, there's just no way you're going to make 90 minutes at such a high level. It's just, you can't ask that of somebody without them getting injured at this point.
Right.
So what can you do to be able to play that 90 minutes at a high level? So it just takes a different set of physical skills. So we were relying a lot on our speed of play and our pace along those outsides at the beginning. And it was so good to watch because we were really going at them and it was very effective. But when we get tired, what do? And that's where the tactics start to come in, and young players need to learn a bit more about like tactics and how to use the ball to do the work as opposed to using your body to do the work. So quick passing to move the defense, get the whole block to move. And then once the block kind of becomes unstable, breaking the line and getting in that way. So that's one way. And then the other way is just like we've been talking about before, manipulating them with your positioning, being able to actually create gaps and create space for yourself and others to be able to use so they can turn and play quickly. I think those things were missing a bit in the second half, but those are things that you learn as you keep getting these games, as you keep getting experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do think that the substitutes clearly, and I love when this happens. I love when a coach that I like Emma Hayes, makes substitutes and then they impact the game right away. I think it shows me like you have a pulse on the team and what we need. So in the 68th minute, Claire Hutton again played this really sharp pass straight into substitute Ali Sentnor. She broke a bunch of lines. It was like right on top of the box. It was a really like kind of tight angle. She plays this great pass. Ali Sentnor, great positioning, kind of beats her defender, sets up Michelle Cooper, who it's kind of an opportunistic goal for Michelle Cooper. I'm so thrilled for her. It was her first ever international goal. But the positioning in turn by Ali Sentnor to receive that pass from Claire Hutton was really the special part of this goal. And Ali Sentnor is like really standing out to me. Kling, I don't know if you've heard this yet. I say this every time I talk about her. She's from my hometown.
Is she?
She's from my hometown of Hanson, Massachusetts. 10,000 people live there. It's a very small town.
Well, I mean, clearly you guys have something in the water there for women's national team players.
Exactly. And I think with Ali, like she obviously scores this banger the other night. She sets up this goal for Michelle Cooper tonight. But it's not just that she's, creating these goal scoring opportunities. It's like the little things that are leading to them. Her positioning to receive the ball, her habits. She's like half turn. She's like just really manipulating the defense, standing in the right spots, has her body positioning ready to go. So Michelle Cooper scores this goal. Super exciting. We're up to 2-0. Any overall thoughts on this goal or where we're at in the game at this point?
I'm so with you on Sentnor. I feel like she is going to be such a good player. And the way that she uses her body in the middle of the midfield is just so cool to watch. She uses her body like she's literally 50 pounds heavier and like holds people off like she's
I know.
I mean, it's crazy. But then she's also as fast as like somebody as quick as like
I know
the smaller people that we've been talking about out there. So I mean, she's got both things, and it's crazy.
The way
Crazy.
that she was in the first game, the Columbia game, they showed some highlights of it today. The way she was under pressure and getting bumped and not falling over, but continuing to dribble and keep the ball and connect her next pass, I was like, it's incredible. It's
Yeah.
physically dominant from a player who isn't necessarily the most physically dominant player. She must just be so strong and so hard to take the ball off of.
She's so strong. And there's like one time where she was running past me and everybody was like, foul her. And I tried to foul her. I swear to God, I've never tried harder to foul somebody and I couldn't even foul her. I was like, I think I like swung at, not with my hands, but like swung my leg
Yeah.
at her and like tried to trip her and like grabbed her shirt. It did not matter.
She's just like,
Yeah, kept going. So anyways, she's really incredible, and I think her awareness too on the field
yeah,
is so much more mature than her age, and
yeah.
so she's just got. I mean, she's a really exciting player. Really exciting.
Handsome mass, baby. Okay, a couple more changes. Sam Coffey came on for Claire Hutton. Fox came on for Giselle Thompson. We figure that's going to close out the game. But and honestly, when this happened, I was like, okay, this is like typical Australia. Like Australia's a hard team to play against. They're scrappy. They're going to fight till the end. Even Michelle Heyman subbing on. I'm like, Michelle Heyman subs on and scores a goal. It's just who she is. She just does it. She's great at it. It is really impressive. They pulled this late goal back. I'm pretty sure it was a counterattack from our corner kick, and they played out quick. Attacked down the right-hand side. Did Haley Rasso cross it to Michelle Heyman?
Yep.
I hope I'm getting all these facts right. I think we were just a little bit out of order in our own transition back, but I'm trusting you more than me as the defender, Kling. What did you see happening on that goal against us?
Yeah, you're right. It was from our own attacking corner, and then I think goalkeeper grabbed it, threw it out.
Yeah.
And Rasso is a handful. I mean, she was fouling everybody. I mean, that's just the way that she does it, and that's like her, you know. So she's an absolute handful, quick on the ball. And then when she got down into the attacking third, like in a crossing area, we were just stretched and pulled out of position. Like we had center backs defending outside of the area. We had
meaning the center backs on a cross like that should be within the frame of the goal.
Correct.
But they were pulled out because we were in a transition moment.
And it's just a domino effect. So like when one gets pulled across, that means the other one has to stay connected, and then the other two come across too. So if you actually watch, Fox is having to come all the way across the front post to try and
she's
somebody.
the outside back on the other side.
Correct.
So we were just pulled too far over. That makes sense.
Yeah, we just didn't have time to really get, but that's soccer, right? Sometimes you're in crisis defending mode and you just have to fill spaces and figure it out. And we just didn't do a good enough job filling spaces and figuring it out. I think you just grab somebody in that situation and just make it really hard for them to get their head on it. But I mean, Heyman had a kind of a free header there.
Yeah, she did. I mean, it was a good opportunity for Australia. I mean, we're a young team. We got caught in transition. Australia scored. We still won the game. We created a few more chances. I think the game overall was more in our favor, even though the second half felt a little bit more even. Lots of lessons to learn from this game. We win 2-1. Do you have like an overall takeaway? If you were in the locker room, what do you think the girls are saying? What would you say?
The future is bright. I mean, watching how much talent and quality and hard work happened out there today, I would say that the future is really bright for the U.S. women's national team. And the one area that I would really have everybody focus on, I don't even think I mentioned this, but this is where I really felt like we could do better, is building out of the back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can we use one-touch passes and two-touch passes to break lines? Sometimes I think we play to the outside, who then plays to another outside player, who plays to another outside player. How do we get the ball to an outside player to then come back to the middle, which opens the entire field up instead of just opening up one side? How can we get to the point where we open up the whole field? Yeah. And I think that can happen with a bit more one-touch play.
Yeah.
Which is scary, you know?
What position do you think is the most crucial in doing that? The sixes?
The sixes and the outside backs. Well, I mean, it's everybody, isn't it? But I think
Yeah.
the way that you can do it is like you create an overload with the two center backs and the six with the
Yeah.
two forwards, right? Or if it's three forwards, you bring down two sixes, then you create the overload there.
Right.
And then you have your probably outside backs matched up because they usually like to play with 7 and 11s on outside backs. But then since there's an overload in the middle, if you play it wide and you one touch it back into the six, that
Yeah.
means that we've created an overload with us too. Does that make sense? The
We've
outside back and
we
the
we've
six.
I think so. I think I need a whiteboard.
I know I'm not good. I'm not good at
No.
explaining without a whiteboard.
No. You are good at explaining. I'm not that good at learning, and I think I want to do a segment now where we do whiteboards with Kling, like, once a week.
Oh, fun. I
Yeah.
love whiteboards.
That would
No, it's just
be
it would be fun. It would be really fun.
it really would be fun.
I would have so many lines up there, and I'd be like, and Sam goes this way, and Klingenberg comes around this way.
I love that. All right. Before we're getting up to the point where we're going to have our callers call in just a second, but I do want to check in quickly on how the rest of the tournament's going. So Japan went up against Colombia in the earlier game pretty much immediately. They scored in like the first. It was like even quicker than our goal. It was crazy. It was like right off the kickoff. They ended up winning the game. Oh my gosh, was it? What was the score of that game? Can somebody help me? I forget. Chat. SOS. Anyways, I'll get back to the score in just a second. Guys, I forget the score of the game. I got a lot of numbers in my head. This has set us up very nicely for She Believes USA versus. It was 4-1, everybody. Thank you so much, Azur Angle. I really needed that help. Okay, setting us up nicely for a USA versus Japan She Believes final showdown. That's going to be on Wednesday night. I do want to mention a player here, Mina Tanaka, Utah Royals forward, who's leading the tournament in goals with 4 goals. But Japan is also leading the U.S. on goal differential. So if we were to tie them on Wednesday, Japan would win the tournament. Kling, knowing how good this Japan team is, and just another note, this Japan team is very similar to their Olympic roster, who we barely beat last summer. And our roster is pretty different from our Olympic roster. So what are you expecting from Wednesday's final? And what does our U.S. team need to do to ensure that we can come away with the win?
Honestly, I kind of feel like the USA should just like go out there and have as much fun as possible. I know that sounds outrageous, but I think that when we start to focus on the other team and focus on like how good they are and how we barely beat them, and then we start to put we start to bring fear into it.
Right.
I just feel like this team's so good that they don't need to worry about the outcome or the opponent. Like if we just focus on what we can do and like play free flowing, get our players running at their outside backs at speed, like get players in the box, shut down spaces quickly when we lose the ball. We're going to be just fine. Like,
yeah.
And even if we lose, we're still going to be just fine.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
This is actually my final question of the day for you is going to be about this, so I don't want to ruin it now, but like I totally agree. To be 2-0 and She Believes against 2 pretty quality opponents with such a new roster, with so many young players getting experience, it's a very good sign. I feel like we have already won and already gotten so much out of this tournament. But of course, in true U.S. Women's National Team fashion, I hope that we win the whole thing. So we will see to that. We will see to that on Wednesday. I know you agree. We're gonna.
Sorry, one more thing, and I don't want to break. I don't want to break Sonnet's streak. Obviously,
no,
like
we
that
can't.
To me is that's one of the most important things.
The only thing that matters is that Sonnet gets 8 She Believes Cup trophies to her name. All right, we are gonna start hanging out, everybody. We've reached the point in the show that we are going to hear from you, our listeners. So, like I said before, if you're going to join us here live on YouTube, scan the QR code in the top left of your screen, or you can click the pinned comment in the chat. You'll go into a Zoom with our producer, Sophie. Sophie will tell you everything. You're not going to appear on screen. If you don't want to ask a question, please just give us a like. It helps us more than you know. Okay, everybody, when I call your name, you're going to take yourself off mute. Then you're going to tell us where you're from, and then you're going to ask us ask your question. So up first, we have Avery again. Avery, I'm so excited you're back.
Hi, I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and my question is, what's the most important advice you've gotten from advice or compliment that you've gotten from a coach or teammate? And also, what's your favorite movie and movie snack?
Wow, Avery. Avery, first of all, thank you so much for calling back. I'm so happy to hear from you. Kling, favorite or most important advice you got from a coach or teammate?
Okay, favorite and most important advice that I've gotten from a coach is joy equals success. So whenever
Wow.
you're playing with joy, then you're probably playing free. And when you're playing free, you're playing your best.
Love.
That's definitely the best advice I ever got. I feel like that changed my whole career. And then favorite movie and favorite movie snack. Me and my girlfriend Igor, we just had a movie night last night. Like we set up our place like a movie theater and like had
That's so
snacks. We went to the candy store. We had popcorn. We got all of our like chips that we used to eat as a child that we don't eat anymore because you know they got like yellow, red,
Yeah,
like 40
they got
dyes in
bad
there and
stuff in
everything.
them. Yeah,
They got bad stuff. But like one time it's not gonna kill you.
Yeah.
So favorite movie snack is popcorn and I like these black licorice hot take black licorice like
Oh.
chocolate covered.
Oh, what?
Yeah, dude.
Dang, ew, I was like literally having the best time with you and now I'm so appalled.
No, it's the best, Sam. Literally, you'd never have to even share your snacks in the movie theater. Nobody else likes them.
Oh, ew. I'm like, whatever the opposite of your mouth watering is, that's what's happening to me right now. Okay, I'm gonna answer this too, Avery. I'm like so obsessed with this question. Okay, one of my college coaches to me said that like I feel like in college, a lot of us were going through this thing where we were like, I'm not, nobody's giving me any confidence. And I'm not feeling like I'm getting any confidence from you to the coach or to whoever. And my coach said to me, like, you're confident, you have to own your confidence. Like, I can't give that to you. I can't take it away. The media can't give it to you. Your teammates can't give it to you. People certainly can like give you compliments and like, but your confidence has to be something that like you own and you control. And that changed my career. That really stuck with me as I need to try to cultivate this sense of what I'm good at and take pride in that and not let other people's opinions or thoughts of me like let me be on this roller coaster. So that was a really important piece of advice that I got from a coach.
That's beautiful, Sam.
Isn't that really, really good, Kling?
Yeah, that is a great answer.
I know. I've thought of that one before. It's my favorite piece of advice. My favorite movie? Oh my God, that's so hard to pick. My favorite movie like recently was definitely Wicked. Did you see Wicked, Kling?
I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't yet, but only because I promised my mom and my brother that I would go see it with them, and then every single time we tried to get tickets, it was sold out, and now it's just too late.
Well, it's coming out on you'll be able to watch it at home soon for a movie night. Which will be incredible. So Wicked, Avery, have you seen Wicked?
No.
Oh, well, maybe we could all start watching Wicked. My favorite movie snack is those long, this is like old school because now they have Nerds gummy clusters. Kling, I can hear the siren, but like it's literally totally fine. It doesn't matter.
The funniest part, sorry to interrupt, is that
Wait,
yes,
that's
a siren.
Now?
Yes. I have 2 little Pomeranians, and they're just out there going, Sorry, I'll put myself on mute.
No. Don't put yourself on mute. It's totally fine. One time I was interviewing, time out everybody. Avery, sorry, we're going to take a quick break. One time I was interviewing Marta. Yes, Marta, like legend Marta. And somebody came to my door and my dog started barking and I had to excuse myself and leave Marta on the line hanging for like 2.5 minutes while I went and dealt with it. It was so embarrassing.
Horrifying.
So Kling, this is nothing. I'll get to my favorite movie snack, Avery. I'm so sorry. They're like the old sour straws. But I feel like now you would get like Nerds clusters now. Like I feel like that's like the updated version. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like a Nerds rope.
Yeah, but then you know how they have the gummy clusters now? I do love those, but they make me so sick because I eat so many of them. Avery, what's your favorite movie snack?
Probably Nerds gummy clusters and Sour Patch watermelon.
Oh yeah. Didn't you say last time Sour Patch Peaches because you asked her favorite candy?
Yes.
I have a good memory. Avery, thank you so much for calling in. We really appreciate it. We'll talk to you on our next TWG Live on Wednesday, okay?
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. That one's actually really, really late, so I don't know if Avery's going to be able to stay up. Okay, sorry everybody. I know that was a long time, but Avery, as you all know, is just the best. All right, up next is Marissa. Marissa, can you take yourself off mute? Tell us where you're from, and then ask your question. Marissa, are you there? All right, Marissa, we're going to have to come back to you. Sorry. Up next, Anna. Anna, can you take yourself off mute? Can you tell us where you're from, and can you ask your question?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Cool.
And my question is, do you think the U.S. would have had a more energetic second half if the triple espresso or Naomi Girma had been in playing?
Wow. Big question, Anna. I think that in some senses, yes. Would all those world-class players have added some depth to our bench? Yeah, I definitely think so. I think we'll certainly miss them anytime those 4 players and Rose Lavelle, another big player who's not in camp, aren't there. But I think, again, part of our reason for maybe having a dip in energy might just be where we're at in the season. And so I think in general, moving forward, I think that dip in energy will get better and better as most of our players move more into their NWSL seasons. But I'm always here to have triple espresso, Naomi, and Rose available. Kling, what do you think?
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anna, how old are you?
I'm 11.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for calling in, Anna, and I loved your question.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Anna.
Anna, who's your favorite player?
Oh, I really love Mal Swanson.
Oh, wow. Well, me too.
Don't we all?
All right. Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank
all right.
you.
Up next, we have David. David, can you take yourself off mute? Tell us where you're from and ask your question.
Hi, yeah. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we sure can.
Oh, awesome. I live in the Bay Area, but I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii. And
Nice.
yeah, I just wanted to ask you guys, with Japan coming up and there's such a technical team, like what's been the hardest thing for you that you remember when you played a team like that? And, you kind of touched on it, but what are some of the changes other than just going for it that the U.S. will probably have to make considering kind of how strong they've been playing in the tournament so far?
Great question, David. Thank you so much for calling in. Kling, do you want to take this one?
We need a whiteboard. No, I'm just kidding.
We actually literally do need a whiteboard for
We
Kling to
probably do
explain.
need one. I think that yes, Japan is so techy, but also they're kind of, I hope this is kosher to say, but like hive mind. Like they're all thinking about the game and the rhythm of the game and the flow of the game in the same way. And so, like, what was so hard for like me when I played against Japan is that they were already had something in their mind about what they wanted to do, and the ball was like 2 passes from getting to them. And they're like moving in positions to like always help each other out, always know that like if they have pressure that there's going to be somebody underneath giving them an option out. And so I think there's no team internationally that's more on the same page than Japan, and that makes it really hard to get the ball from them. So tactically, the U.S. will probably have to play pretty differently, to be honest. They can't just like throw one person to go defend. They actually have to come with an organized defense and organized press. And if they don't, then they're going to just get played around.
Yeah, that's basically my experience playing against Japan. Not that we would just get played around, but I feel like I would always just get played around. And so my like memory, David, of playing against Japan is my calves cramping and just having to run through it and like chase. Like Kling was saying, they're so aligned, and it does feel like they have a plan in place. And if their plan doesn't work out, they don't lose the ball. They keep it and they cycle back and they go again. So you're constantly shifting, constantly stepping to pressure, stepping back into position, stepping to pressure, turning around and running 10 yards back. It's so exhausting. And so like, I would love to be playing, but in a way I do not envy these girls because it's going to be hard to play against Japan. Japan is really, really hard to play against. They are so technical and so tactically savvy, gifted, aligned, smart. So the game on Wednesday is definitely going to be a treat, and I'm really excited.
They're by far one of my favorite teams to watch in the world.
Yeah, for sure. David, just while we still have you, what's your favorite candy?
Ooh, nerds clusters are pretty high up there. By the way, I love that Avery called back in as well because I heard her on the last the That's Doing Live. I'll go with nerd clusters. Although if you ask any of the 12-year-olds that I coach, because I coach for USWNT United, I think clusters are just any candy they eat. Although they're very big fans of these new mints I brought back from Japan.
Oh my goodness.
Cool.
Wow. Okay. Well, David, we really appreciate you calling in. We loved your question. We're going to take one more question and we're going to try to go back to Marissa. Marissa, if you're there, can you take yourself off mute?
Come on, Marissa. You can do it.
Oh,
Maybe.
Marissa, I really wanted you.
Dang it.
Are you sure? All right, Marissa, I'm really sorry. We're going to let you go. We are going to take one more question. Yassine, if you're there, can you take yourself off mute and tell us where you're from?
Hi, my name is Yasin, and I'm from Rhode Island.
Hi, Yasin. It's so nice to meet you. Thanks for calling in.
Nice to meet you too. And I was wondering if, do you think there is a different type of fitness you need to be compared to playing on the NWSL and playing on the national team? Like, do you need to be more fit to be playing on the national team?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think in some ways, but in some ways not. Like, I think that for a World Cup or an Olympics, the fitness required to play that many games in that short of a span at that high of a level is unique because it is rare to have to play that many condensed games in a league. But I'll just say, like, yes, the national team is very difficult. You have to be very fit, but the NWSL is like so hard. Kling, do you agree?
It's outrageous. I mean, I would like limp home after games, and like the coaches would always be like, "Oh, you have a day off tomorrow." I'm like, "Is that a day off tomorrow when I have to sleep until 1?"
Yeah, it's like purely re-healing my body enough.
Yeah, like I don't even get to do anything fun because I can't get off my couch. You know?
I hear you. I
Oh,
do hear
man.
you. It's a tough question because I think that there are certain things that, you know, being in national team camp is really different than living where you live and going into training in your games every day. Like being on the road is different. You're eating differently. The games are sometimes have a different energy, like especially when my early days in the NWSL playing for the national team and being on TV, it was so different and it did require a different kind of focus and there was like a lot of pressure on you.
Mm-hmm.
Fitness wise, though, it's tough, really tough to answer the question because the NWSL is just so hard. But what a great question, Yasin. Thank you so much for calling in. Marissa, thank you so much. We are going to answer your question verbally, and that's going to be our last question, everybody. I'm really sorry. We couldn't get Marissa's something to work, but she wrote in the chat, Kling, can you tell us a Becky story from the vault?
Oh my gosh.
Return the favor from Becky telling stories about you on the podcast. Give us something. Give us some Reba.
Okay, well, here's something really cute that we're doing. So Becky's my best friend, and but we're not living in the same place anymore. And if you know anything about Becky, she is effing terrible at keeping in touch or talking on the phone or like doing anything besides being by herself and playing video games and petting her cats and hanging out with Zola, you know, like she's just super introverted. And it's one of the things that we love about her because it makes her her. And also it's not really great for long distance friendships. So I was like, I really need to like maybe create something that will allow us to connect that doesn't put any pressure on Becky to like, you know, go outside of her comfort zone too much. So we decided to do this little pen pal thing where we take like a video of ourselves and we tell each other what we're reading that week and kind of what's going on in our lives and funny rumors we've heard and funny stories that we've had happen to us. And so we're just kind of like sending videos back and forth to each other in like a little shared not Dropbox, but like shared album.
That's so cute. Wait, have you heard of this thing called the Wednesday Waffle?
No, what's that?
Is it kind of like this? It's when like in your group chat, I think it's like supposed to be a voice note, but I'm sure, or maybe it is supposed to be video. And it's like every Wednesday in your group chat, you're all supposed to send this Wednesday waffle where you like basically go on like a little 2-minute rant with all, and you'd say, this is what I've been doing. I'm making this for lunch today. So-and-so's doing well. Here's my dog. Like, miss you guys. This is what I'm up to. And it's a good way to like keep in touch with all your friends. I don't do it with anybody. But, like now I'm like, okay, Wednesday waffle with Kling and Becky.
Yeah, Sam's like, put me in the group chat.
The other advice I was going to give you, Kling, for keeping in touch with Becky is you just make her sign a contract to do a podcast with you every week. And then she contractually has to be your friend.
That's incredible. And I am calling my agent right after this.
It's been working with me and Lynn for years. So it's definitely my best friendship advice. Marissa, this was the best question. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thanks,
we are so
Marissa.
grateful to everybody who called in. We couldn't make the show without you, quite literally. So thank you all so much. Kling, just one final thought from you from the day. I feel like we all came into this tournament expecting and like being like, it's okay to have growing pains. Like, this is a young team. It's a new cycle. Every new cycle, we go through something. Maybe we'll lose a game. I don't know. Even though today, yes, we let up a goal, but it was the youngest rush we put out since 2001. The day wasn't perfect. Australia maybe isn't in their best form right now, but I'm feeling like really optimistic, really great about this team. So my question is this just like the best young generation of players ever?
Oh man, isn't it hard to say that when you've been a young generation of players?
Like, that's literally me.
Wait, what? What generation? You mean like the 2011 one? No, I think it is though. Like, I mean, you can't fault like the Akers, Ham, Lily, like that. I mean, that was different, right? That was totally different, but that was also a different era. I think right now, seeing these young players come up, playing against these veteran Aussie players who've been to World Cups, who've been to Olympics, who've done Champions League finals, like they've played in everything big, and they stepped up and looked incredibly mature, experienced, free, calm. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's the best. I don't like to rank it that way, but it's exciting. And I'm really stoked to keep watching. And I feel like Emma must be frothing at the mouth thinking about just all the incredible games to come.
I know. I will answer my own question because it was one of those questions that's like, it's like, oh, you're going to answer this, but I will answer it. And I'll say, I hope it's the best young generation, because thinking about your generation, Kling, everything that you fought for, that we fought for, equal pay, better resources, better domestic league. The NWSL is in such an awesome place. And I think that our generations did help set up some of these players to have access to more. And so I hope they're the best generation. I think that was everybody's goal.
Heck yeah, Sam. Great answer.
Well, yeah, I mean, I probably took that right out of your mouth at one point. So thank you for teaching me. You were actually one of my first roommates on the national team, Kling.
Was I really?
You were, and you were so nice to me. You took me out to Manhattan Beach Post for brunch, just you and me. And I was like, I don't know why she's doing this. And you just were being nice.
Well, why not, Sam?
It was so sweet. And I'll never forget. And you introduced me to those cheddar biscuits that are so freaking good.
Dude, I still dream about this sometimes.
I do too. Well, Kling, thank you so much for joining us. This was like such a joy to have you on.
Thank you. Me too. I had a blast.
I think everybody really enjoyed it. Okay, everybody, coming up next for the women's game, we have an all-new episode of Good Vibes dropping on Tuesday with everybody's favorite television broadcaster, Becky Sauerbrunn. Becky herself hopefully joining in a little Wednesday waffle group chat with Becky and Kling soon. Then we've got another TWG Live coming at you on Wednesday after the national team game with Angel City defender Allie Riley. Yes, that is going to be at 12:30 in the morning, everybody. So Avery, you might have to go to bed, but everybody else, I expect you to be here. All of our podcasts are available here on YouTube and on our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow along with the women's game across all social media, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok, Women's Game, MIB. You can even send us an email at womensgamemib@menandblazers.com. I would love to hear from you. Huge thanks again to Kling. Huge thanks again to all of our callers, to the entire team at TWG and MIB. All right, everybody. I'm Sam Mewis. This is the Women's Game. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you soon.